The Eldar are one of the oldest and most enigmatic races in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. Their history stretches back to the ancient past, when they were the most powerful civilization in the galaxy, achieving unparalleled heights in various fields of science, culture, and technology. However, their downfall began due to their sinful and excessively hedonistic behavior, which led to the birth of a destructive entity known as the Pleasure Prince, or the Devourer of Souls. This being, formed from the emotions and desires of the Eldar, inflicted irreparable damage upon their once thriving empire. Most Eldar perished during this cataclysmic event known as the Fall, but those who survived split into several groups. The most well-known are the Eldar of the Path, or the Eldar of the Dying Race, and the Eldar of the Dark City. The Eldar of the Path, or the Craftworld Eldar, chose a life of asceticism and self-restraint, vowing never to repeat the mistakes of the past. They live a nomadic existence aboard vast spacecraft known as Craftworlds. The Eldar of the Dark City, on the other hand, refuse to abandon their hedonistic ways and continue to indulge their whims and desires. This behavior has made them easy prey for the forces of chaos. The Eldar are an ancient and advanced race, possessing superior technology and psychic abilities. Their mastery of the Webway, an ancient network of tunnels through the warp, allows them to traverse the galaxy swiftly and safely. The Eldar are an exceptionally ancient race, their origins shrouded in the mists of galactic prehistory. According to their own myths and legends, they descended from an ancient race of immortal beings known as the Old Ones. These godlike entities, who possessed unfathomable psychic and technological prowess, seeded many of the younger intelligent races across the galaxy, including the Eldar. In their primeval era, the Eldar were known as the Eldars, a highly advanced and psychically gifted race that quickly established a far-reaching empire among the stars. At the height of their power, they were unmatched by any other civilization, exploring and unlocking the secrets of the galaxy with their superior knowledge and technology. The ancient Eldars were incredibly long-lived, some surviving for tens of thousands of years. This longevity, combined with their mastery of psychic disciplines, allowed them to push the boundaries of science and metaphysics to realms unimaginable to younger races. They created marvels of art, philosophy, and invention that may never be replicated. Their empire spanned vast territories across the galaxy, centered around the core systems they called the Eldari Dominion. Here, they constructed wondrous cities and structures, such as the fabled Dome of Crystal Seers and the Towers of Ultrine. These engineering marvels demonstrated their unsurpassed skill and vision. In those early eras, the Eldars followed the path of the Eldanesh, a harmonious psychic philosophy and way of life. This code emphasized the importance of discipline, self-control, and the channeling of their potent psychic powers through finely tuned psychoneurological techniques. Their society was one of refined enlightenment and learning. However, their proclivity for excess and decadence would ultimately prove their undoing. Over many thousands of years, their empire slowly turned inward, becoming ever more isolated, indulgent, and stagnant. This gradual decline paved the way for a cataclysmic fall from grace that would devastate the Eldar race. Before this apocalyptic event, the Eldars were a race of explorers, mystics, scientists, and philosophers. They unlocked many profound secrets of the material and immaterial universe, building an interstellar empire of staggering scale and sophistication. But their golden age could not last, sowing the seeds of their downfall as they fell ever deeper into hedonism. Within the Eldari Dominion, the core worlds became bywords for excess, indulgence, and decadent practices beyond imagination. Exotic cults dedicated to the pursuit of ever more outrageous experiences and sensations spread across the empire like a psychic contagion. The noble elden ways of ancient times were increasingly abandoned in favor of disturbing new belief systems. As this inward decadent spiral continued over millennia, it caused fundamental ripples and disturbances in the cosmic immaterium. In this realm of pure psychic energy, the collective psyche of the Eldar civilization began to coagulate into a vastly powerful psychic entity later known as the Devourer of Souls. This malevolent force would trigger a series of cataclysmic events that brought an abrupt and apocalyptic end to the ancient Eldar Empire. With their empire descending ever deeper into debauchery and the worship of excess, the ripples in the immaterium caused by the collective psyche of the Eldar grew more turbulent. The nascent psychic entity, later known as the Devourer of Souls, became stronger and more defined, its terrible presence beginning to corrupt and distort reality in the material realm. Strange supernatural phenomena began manifesting across Eldar worlds, from prophetic visions and haunting psychic phenomena to entire cities and populations disappearing without a trace. The mystics and scholars of the ancient Eldari grew deeply troubled, sensing a lurking existential threat, but unable to pinpoint its source. Meanwhile, the ruling nobles and hedonistic cults scoffed at such warnings, sinking further into their pursuit of ultimate sensory experience and stimulation. Their activities fed the growth of the gestating Devourer, bringing it ever closer to being born into full consciousness as a force of destruction. At last, the unthinkable occurred. In the final, earth-shattering cataclysm known as the Fall, reality itself shuddered, and the Devourer of Souls came screaming into existence. This utterly catastrophic event ripped open the fabric of real space across the entire Eldar Empire, merging the material and immaterial planes into one nightmarish, limitless hellscape. The ancient core worlds of the Eldar, hotbeds of excess and the psychic fuel of the Devourer, were the first to be swallowed whole. Entire planets, moons, star systems, and trillions upon trillions of Eldar souls were forever consumed and annihilated. The remaining Eldari could only watch in uncomprehending horror as the reality-shattering energies tore their vaunted empire apart. The beings formerly known as the Eldar scattered in utter desperation, fleeing in whichever ramshackle voidcraft could outrun the rapidly expanding galactic shockwave of oblivion. Those that managed to escape faced a grim reality. They were now a broken civilization of refugees, adrift amongst the stars, and just a shattered fragment of what their race once was. In the cosmic age following the cataclysmic birth of the Devourer, now known as the Pleasure Prince or the Devourer of Souls, the remnants of the Eldar race fractured even further. Some grew ever more hardened and isolated to protect their dwindling numbers, while others descended into depravity and the worship of pain and pleasure, embracing the same excesses that had damned their ancestors. Most galactic scholars refer to this seismic event as the Fall of the Eldar. For the surviving Eldar themselves, it marked the end of their ancient utopian civilization and the beginning of the Eldar as an outcast, nomadic diaspora. They renamed themselves the Aeldari, the children of the Old Ones, a lasting reminder of their once unimaginable power and arrogance that had precipitated such an apocalyptic downfall. From the fires of the Fall emerged the three main kindreds that make up the modern Aeldari race: the Craftworld Eldar, the Dark Eldar, and the secretive Harlequins. Though divergent in their philosophies and paths, all are now bound by an age of soul-shearing loss, a gnawing fear of their ancient mistakes being repeated, and the ever-present threat of being consumed by the Immaterium's devouring darkness. Of the three main Eldari kindreds, the Craftworld Eldar are the most numerous and culturally closest to the noble ways of their ancestors before the Fall. These Eldar took to a life of strict self-discipline, binding themselves to the paths of restraint and the rejection of gross indulgence. Abandoning the heart of the old Eldar Empire, they fled in huge multi-banded spacecraft known as Craftworlds. These massive, self-contained star cities house the remaining population of the Craftworld Eldar, allowing them to endure as a scattered nomadic diaspora civilization. Each Craftworld is an enclosed, self-sufficient realm unto itself with its own unique customs and martial traditions. The Craftworld Eldar live highly regimented lives, focusing their psychic abilities and following a system of tightly controlled paths, be they warrior, scholar, leader, or other roles. This allows them to maintain a level of psychic and emotional equilibrium, avoiding tipping back towards the vortex of reckless indulgence that doomed their ancestors. In stark contrast are the corrupt kindred of the Dark Eldar, formerly known as the Eldar of the Dark City of Commorragh. These former nobles and hedonistic cultists fled into the terrifying extra-dimensional labyrinth called the Webway during the Fall, carving out a new sickening realm for themselves. Reveling in piracy, torture, and the stalking of prey from the lesser intelligent species, the Dark Eldar have entirely embraced a culture of unbridled excess and sadistic cruelty. Their lusts and agonizing raids are all that sustain them and fend off the threat of being consumed by the Devourer of Souls, whose eternal thirst they unwittingly stoked during the Fall. Smallest in number but iconic in the Eldari's tragic mythos are the mysterious Harlequins. Sometimes called the Masked Ones or the Players, they are a strange, semi-nomadic race who travel the Webway enacting mythic tales through dance and theatre. Despite their artistic trappings, they are among the deadliest and most enigmatic forces among the Eldari. It is said the Harlequins alone know the full truth about the ancient fall of their people and the exact nature of the Devourer of Souls. Their seemingly random performances across the stars are in fact intricately coded mythological reenactments, keeping this horrific knowledge eternally alive as a warning to their Eldari brethren. Though the modern Eldar are a splintered race living in the shattered shadow of their ancestral civilization's glory, they all share a deep-seated trauma over the Fall. Whether stoic Craftworld warriors, sadistic Dark City raiders, or the cryptic mask dancers, all Eldari bear the scars of that cosmic cataclysm and the ever-present fear that its horrors could one day be revisited upon them. Yet for all their precautions and rigid philosophies, the various Eldari factions remain locked in a tragic, cyclical struggle, fractured reflections of the flaws that precipitated their ancient downfall. As the 41st millennium grinds on, their race continues its nomadic existence, haunted by history and the knowledge that the Devourer eternally lies in wait, hungering for the children of the Old Ones. The Craftworld Eldar, though splintered into myriad separate starfaring craftworlds, are united by their commitment to the Eldar paths, strictly regimented disciplines that channel their psychic abilities and desires into controlled outlets. This rigid way of life is a bulwark against repeating the vortex of indulgence that spawned the Devourer of Souls during the Fall. Each Eldar will walk multiple paths in their long lifetimes, be it the path of the warrior, the path of the seer, the path of the bonesinger, or many others. These paths not only govern their roles and duties within the craft world, but are psycho-spiritual devotions that focus their mental energies. An Eldar who strays too long from a path risks their powerful psyche destabilizing. The most prominent path is that of the warrior, which produces the lethal guardians and protectors of the craft worlds known as aspect warriors. These Eldar fighters have wholly immersed themselves in the machine disciplines of the battlefield, channeling their martial psychic powers through wildly advanced warfare suits and armor. The various aspect shrines incorporate primal-level concepts into their fighting codes. The striking scorpions embody offense, dire avengers defense, fire dragons fury. By fully becoming these disciplines, the Aspect Warriors can fight with terrifying psychic-enhanced skill while still remaining true to the Eldar paths. In opposition are the anarchic, sadistic ways of the Dark Eldar of Commorragh. Having long since rejected the paths, they have fully embraced a culture of piratical violence, forbidden technologies, and the most extreme sensory deviancy imaginable. For the Dark Eldar revel gleefully in the very excesses that brought about their ancestors' downfall during the Fall. Commorragh itself is a twisted realm within the labyrinthine Webway, stolen from the terrifying cosmic powers that dwell there. Here, amidst nightmare cities and shadowed bay domains, the Dark Eldar pursue their practices of psychological and physical torture upon captured slaves and populations raided from real space. By inflicting and experiencing the most extreme agonies and sensations, the Dark Eldar feed off the psychic resonance created, temporarily holding off the threat of being consumed by the Devourer of souls. Their society is built upon this endless cycle of cruelty, excess, and the stalking of prey from lesser species who can replenish their depraved arenas. From the highest homunculus fleshcrafters and witch cult arenas to the baying ranks of Hellion skyborn reavers and bladed Kabbalite warriors, all elements of Dark Eldar culture interlock in an incomprehensible web of murderous hedonism, constantly defying the consequences that damned their ancestors. In among these extremes exist the mysterious Harlequin Masques, semi-nomadic troops of warrior dancers who alone claim to know the full truth behind the ancient fall. The Harlequin's traditional role is to observe and intervene, passing through the various realms of their fragmented kin while enacting mythic cycles through dance and theater. Yet these vibrant performances hold hidden truths. The stories and steps of the masques encode allegorical warnings about the past hubris of the Eldar. The seemingly random acts of the masque across the stars are far from random, but intricately coded reenactments of the ancient myths surrounding the Devourer of souls and the Fall. By these violent aesthetic means, the Harlequins keep the full cosmic history of the Eldar race burning brightly as a constant reminder to their people of the need for discipline and humility. For the masked ones, serve the Laughing God, a powerful entity who embodies the versatility and duality required to navigate the thorned labyrinth of the Aeldari's tragic origins. So while the Craftworld Eldar cling white-knuckled to the Eldar paths, the Dark Eldar spit upon those traditions from their sadistic havens, and the Harlequins pass between these poles, observing and enacting their mythologies. The remnant Eldari race remains locked in a tragic cyclical struggle against the consequences of its own ancient flaws and arrogance. Of all the Eldari kindreds, it is the enigmatic Harlequins who maintain the most direct mythological link and understanding of the cosmic cataclysm known as the Fall. Their masked troops travel the length and breadth of the galaxy via the ancient Webway, putting on bizarre performances that are far more than mere artistic displays. To the Harlequins, or the Masked Ones as they are also known, the fall of their ancestral Eldar Empire at the hands of the Devourer of Souls is the pivotal tragedy that defines their entire race's existence. Every Harlequin movement, costume, and enacted role during their ritualistic performances encodes hidden layers of meaning tied to this primal mythological event. At the core of their beliefs is the Laughing God, a mysterious dualistic entity embodying the balance and versatility the ancient Eldar failed to uphold, which led to their hubris and downfall. The Harlequins serve as the Laughing God's players, donning colorful but distinctive masks that incorporate skull visages as a reminder of the impermanence of all things. Each Harlequin troop's performances, known as the dances, recreate specific mythic retellings and legendary tales surrounding the events of the Fall in intricate, allegorical detail. To the uninitiated, These take on the appearance of nonsensical dreams and disturbing visuals as Harlequins lithely bring myths such as the birth of the Devourer to life through stylized combat dances. However, to those few Aeldari observers steeped in the old ways, the Masques dances reveal profound truths about the Eldar's ancient transgressions and what primal flaws of ego and indulgence led them to trigger such a cosmos-shattering cataclysm upon themselves. The rituals are designed to forever burn this searing knowledge into the Eldari's racial consciousness as a warning against future arrogance. Beyond their mythological role, the Harlequin Masques are also consummate performers and infiltrators, able to slip unseen through the webway to planets and craft worlds thanks to their mask tunnels. Here they can put on showcase dances to remind the Eldar of their tragic history or take more direct action to remove threats to their people by way of their deadly martial art disciplines. On the battlefield, Harlequins are whirling dervishes of lethal firepower and bladed lethality, their colorful ambient fields allowing them to flip seamlessly between real space and the immaterium. Opponents are baffled and decimated as these lightning-fast forces manifest out of locked shadows cast by the webway's hidden underworld. To ally or enemy alike, a visit by a Harlequin Masque is to be respected and feared in equal measure, for they are at once cultural anthropologists, mythological archivists, and deeply self-aware inheritors of the cascading cosmic mistakes that brought low their entire race eons before. By the crackling kiss of the Devourer's jaw, the masked ones vow that history's bloody lessons will not be forgotten amidst the stars. Among the most powerful and respected individuals in Eldar society are those who walk the path of the Warlock, dedicating their eternal existence to mastering the invisible ways of the Psyker. These warrior mystics channel their tremendous psychic potential into serving as seers, sorcerers, and wielders of staggering spiritual energies. The Warlocks represent the noble mystical traditions of the ancient Eldar at the height of their power, when they could sculpt and control the eddies of the immaterium with unfathomable skill. Even after the fall, these practices live on as one of the most crucial paths an Eldar can undertake to defend their race against the entropic forces of the galaxy. On each of the craft worlds, great Wraithbone construct buildings called Distort Peripheriques serve as the primary temples and academies where Warlocks are trained from childbirth to push the boundaries of their exceptional psychic abilities. The training is harsh and unforgiving, forcing young initiates to build mind fortresses capable of withstanding the predations of hostile warp entities. Those who master their mental disciplines fully become Warlocks. Seers able to witness future timelines, possess almost supernatural perception, and wield formidable psychic powers on the battlefield. A single Warlock can area lightning storms with their witchfire, disintegrate foes with focused mental force, or reverse time's flow around their craft world briefly. During battle, Warlocks serve as force multipliers and spirit warriors, bolstering the morale and psychic powers of other Eldar warriors around them. Their ghostly ability to slip between real space and the immaterium allows them to ambush enemies from the ether or withdraw allies in the blink of an eye. The most legendary Warlocks can even inhabit the spirit stones of their fallen comrades temporarily, fighting on as undying sorcerers. Yet for all their mystic might, the Warlocks constantly walk a fine line. Any slip in their disciplined psychic mastery risks possession by the malevolent entities of the warp or a disastrous chain of events reminiscent of the Eldar's ancient fall. So the ancient skills they were born to must be relentlessly practiced through seances, spirit journey trances, and solitaries spent sculpting the dizzying geometry of the Rilieta reality matrices. To outsiders, the ways of the Warlocks appear indistinguishable from powerful witchcraft or dark arcane knowledge to be feared. But for the Eldar, they represent a spiritual technology central to their race's endurance and the reclamation of their civilization's former influence over the material and immaterial planes. Masters of the unseen realms, the Warlocks stand eternal vigil with witch staves and spirit stones, determined their people's reality-shattering mistakes will never be repeated. Central to the ancient power and civilization of the Eldar before their cataclysmic fall was their mastery and monopolization of the Webway, an ultra-advanced labyrinthine dimension existing in parallel to real space. This infinite, tunneling network allowed the Eldar an unprecedented means of traversing the galaxy while remaining safe from the perils of warp space travel. Dating back to the incomprehensible engineering feats of the Old Ones themselves, the Webway is a higher dimensional underverse of crisscrossing paths and impossibly immense transit corridors. By opening subdimensional gateways and passages, the ancient Eldar could traverse an unimaginable cosmic distance in the blink of an eye while remaining untouched by the storms and entities of the warp. Many of the most legendary and dreaded locales of Eldar myth and history exist within or betwixt the myriad layers of the Webway itself. Chief among these is the fabled Black Library, an archive of literally reality-defining importance hidden from the rest of the galaxy. Here the Eldar's greatest scientists and overseers of the path of the Bonesinger collected the sum total knowledge of their race at its apex. Within the Black Library's eldritch stasis crypts are said to reside whole planets' worth of living libraries containing the forbidden arcane wisdom and dimensional mastery the Eldar possessed before their hubris birthed the Devourer of Souls. Its knowledge and technology is so advanced and potentially destructive, it is guarded at all times by the warrior lore keepers of the Harlequin Masques. Other legendary Webway locations like the Dome of Crystal Seers, the Crossroads of Shadow, the Labyrinth Demonica, Cantus Umbracta, and many others represent powerful mythic or geographic realities where much of the fateful drama of the Fall took place. Whole Eldar craftworlds ply the hidden ebb and flow of the Webway's currents to remain shielded from the outer galaxy. Of course, the Webway is also a place of lurking nightmares, since the fall of the Eldar allowed the material universe to intermix with the Immaterium, the dark city of Commorragh, and other witch cult realms of the depraved Dark Eldar now occupy vast portions of this once hallowed dimension. The sadistic Dark Eldar use the labyrinth freely to launch piratical raids across the galaxy in search of fresh victims. More terrifying entities, the Enslavers, Karna Gran, Scythor Fiend, and other unnameable psychic horrors spawned during the Fall, have also been known to lurk amidst the Webway's darkest reaches, presenting a constant threat even to the fleetingly passing Harlequins who know its paths best. So the Webway represents the height of the Eldar's cosmic genius and deadly arrogance. In its endless tunnels are hoarded the keys to their mythological truths and potential future rebirth as a supreme race. But it is also now a warped and menacing realm from which few can escape the crooked shadows of their species' ancient cosmic sin. In the ancient mythologies and war rituals of the Aeldari, few figures loom as large and redemptive as Khaine, the bloody-handed god of battle and the embodiment of Eldar martial prowess. As the story goes, Khaine was the only deity to eventually turn against the pleasure cults and vain decadence that was consuming the Eldar race during their slow spiral into ruin before the Fall. When the catastrophic birthing of the Devourer of Souls finally occurred, shredding reality across the Eldar Empire, it was Khaine alone who took up arms against the Whisperers of the Bloody Thorn Garden. In a climactic confrontation, the war god fought and slew many greater demons of the newborn Chaos God, but at a terrible cost of nearly being destroyed himself. All that remained of Khaine was a sliver of his fiery, blood-enwrapped essence that landed on the now shattered Eldar homeworld of Biel-Tan. Here, it coalesced into the Avatara, a supremely powerful but volatile nanomolecular plasma construct embodying Khaine's indomitable spirit of battle. This nigh unstoppable avatar has been a key part of the mythology and war cult beliefs of the craft world Biel-Tan Eldar ever since. On Biel-Tan and some other craft worlds, an elite caste of Eldar warriors known as the Bloody-Handed Ones keep an eternal vigil over the Avatar's runic prison vault, engaging in arcane rituals and combat dances to keep Khaine's presence bonded to the material plane. During times of dire need, these exarchs and mystics can awaken the Avatar through complex symphonies of spirit channeling and martial ceremony. When it does manifest and take the field, the towering molten Avatar of Khaine is an apocalyptic vision, striding forth amid nuclear firestorms while swinging its blazing dragon's maw axe in simple, inevitable arcs that cut through any armor like a laser scythe. All enemies are swept aside in this wrathful bloodstorm, fueled by the immortal vengeance of the greatest warrior in Eldar myth and legend. Yet, as mighty as Khaine's Avatar is, it is also highly unpredictable and dangerous even to the worshippers who summon it forth. For the Avatar's destructive power is primal and indiscriminate, born of the same cosmic fire that forged and shattered the Eldar during the Fall. It is a weapon of utter last resort, one even the most skilled Biel-Tan warlocks struggle to bind and contain once the slaughter has commenced. So in battle after battle, from the Plains of Rebirth to Cardithy's Folly and 100 other war zones, the Avatar of Khaine has appeared like an avenging comet, cleansing whole worlds in firestorms of retribution while symbolizing the Aeldari's eternal struggle against the consequences of their own buried flaws and arrogance that brought such horrors into being in the first place. One of the most fundamental and somber aspects of Eldar society and culture revolves around their metaphysical conception of the soul and how to preserve it from being consumed by the cosmic hunger of the Devourer of Souls, also known as Slaanesh. This obsession manifests in their utilization of spirit stones and the ancient infinity circuit technology. To the Eldar, upon death, their far-seer spirit is at risk of being devoured by the Devourer, a horrifying eternal oblivion worse than any mortal demise. In their mythologies, only the most spiritually disciplined and pure of souls can hope to avoid this grim fate and be reincarnated naturally. As a result, the craft world Eldar in particular have erected sprawling crystalline constructs on their great starborn arcs called infinity circuits. These work by trapping and preserving the far-seer spirits of the dead in a form of stasis limbo, safeguarded until the day they can be reincarnated into a new corporeal form. Each Eldar is equipped from birth with a spirit stone, an intricately carved emerald gem that serves as a receptacle for their far-seer spirit upon death. In a sacred ritual, their soul energy is drawn into the stone to await being uploaded into the respective craft world's infinity circuit vault. Here the spirits remain in a form of transcendent group consciousness, existing alongside the souls of ancestors in an eternal waking dream state. The most spiritually elevated of these souls can act as guides to the living via their wisdom. Others await the day their spirit stones are joined to a new birthed elder body so they can reincarnate. Of course, infinity circuits are not infallible. When craft worlds are attacked or damaged, spirit stones can be shattered or stolen, dooming those souls to be devoured by the Devourer after all. Elite fighter aspects like striking scorpions and dire avengers are often tasked with retrieving fallen spirit stones from battlefields to prevent such soulful oblivion. The infinity circuits and the ability to reincarnate endlessly into new physical forms represent salvation and redemption in the eyes of the craftworld Eldar. Not only do they preserve the souls and wisdom of their race perpetually, but they provide spiritual insurance against fully succumbing to the same vain excesses that spawned the Devourer of Souls in the first place during their ancestral fall. Many Dark Eldar scoff at such spiritual precaution, considering it cowardly. But to the craft-world Eldari, cheating the cycle of cosmic hunger and reincarnating purified is their hard-won cultural wisdom learned at the price of near-extinction eons ago. Until the day they might fully shed the karma of their species' ancient arrogance, the Infinity Circuits remain an eternal vigil against total oblivion. Among the most revered and vital craftspeople within Eldar society are the Bonesingers, psychers and artisans who have mastered the biological art of shaping and psychosonically controlling Wraithbone. This miraculous psychoreactive bone-like material is central to all aspects of Eldar technology, architecture and warfare. Wraithbone's origins date back to the ancestral Eldar Empire at the peak of its reality-shaping abilities. By impregnating psychically charged bone seed with their potent racial consciousness, the Eldar could grow and intricately sculpt seemingly immutable constructs and weapons out of this living metallic substance. Every Eldar craft world, vehicle, building, and even many of their legendary warriors have a skeletal essence of Wraithbone, hardened yet quasi-sentient material that can only be controlled and shaped by the disciplined mental talents and spirit resonance of the Bonesinger caste. They are instrumental in crafting everything from ghost armor and Wraithguard battle constructs to the towering bioships that carry their diaspora civilization across the stars. On each craft world, sprawling foundry gardens exist where the revered Bonesingers attune their singing psychic scripts to beds of Wraithbone seed, coaxing it to grow into tangled forms, both simple and astronomically complex over many Terran years. These sacred forges are spaces of intense psychic focus, where even the slightest lapse in emotional control could lead the Wraithbone to grow wildly out of its set patterns and form grotesque mutant spires. The finest Bonesingers can call upon the psychic racial ancestral memories of the Eldar, using these ancestral scripts to rebuild and evolve millennia-old devices pulled from ancient catacombs. Many of their skills are hoarded from the lost lore of the Eldar's ancient empire before it fell, allowing them to create technology light years removed from the primitive physical mastery of other intelligent races. Beyond mere construction, Bonesingers are also vital members of their craft world's armies, able to psychokinetically repair damaged vehicles and weaponry in the midst of battle by attuning their spirit notes to the living Wraithbone itself. On the field of war, they are accompanied by armored bodyguard constructs, lending their potent psychic emanations to their warriors' ghostplate armor and enhancing their fighting prowess. In the endless fight to preserve their scattered race, the Bonesingers possess arcane technical knowledge and symbiotic control over Wraithbone that is among the Eldar's most closely guarded and irreplaceable hallmarks of their civilization's former cosmic grandeur. For as unmatched as their skill and vision is, it also serves as an eternal reminder of how dramatically they have fallen since their ancient ancestors took realities and worlds apart and rebuilt them anew from living Wraithbone with but a whispered psychic hymnal. Not all remnants of the once galaxy-spanning Eldar Empire reside aboard the great craft worlds or in the gnarled realm of Commorragh. Some took a different path entirely after the catastrophic birthing of the Devourer of Souls, that of the outlaw Corsair Fleets who rove the stars and ply the secret Webway paths as spacefaring mercenaries, separatists, and pirates. The origins of the Eldar Corsairs trace back to the final days before the fall, when the rising cult excess and hedonism forced many conservative or Puritan factions to flee the corruption of the ancient empire's core worlds. These outriders sought refuge on frontier garrison planets and expeditionary fleets, only to find themselves inadvertently spared from the apocalyptic implosion when reality tore asunder. In the desperate age that followed, these outriders and survivalists took to equipping any void ship capable of warp travel to scratch out an existence on the cosmic peripheries. Their descendants became the insular pirate fleets, skilled in the ways of lightning void raids and underway traversal of the archaic Webway dimensions. Though still Eldar, they were a breed apart, more worldly, mercenary, and embittered by the loss of their ancestral glories. Today, the various Corsair factions like the Eldritch Raiders, Swordwind Coven, and Void Scyther clans range across the galaxy in chapter houses packed aboard repurposed Eldar capital ships and stolen Imperial war fleets. Many base themselves in secret Webway redoubts, launching piratical strikes from maze-like port realms like the Golemugger's Drift against rich agri-worlds and civilian shipping convoys. Known for their callous yet skilled tactics, the Corsairs will indiscriminately take contracts as guns for hire from any passing faction, be they the cabals of Commorragh, Craftworld Fleets, or even the mercantile Tau Empire in rare cases. Their fighter wings are famously skilled at hit-and-run attacks, using stealth and pinpoint teleportation strikes to cripple larger prey without risking commitment of their entire fleets. Of course, even among the freebooting Corsair factions, many remain distrustful of each other's shifting alliances and power plays. Feuds between Corsair warlords often see them turning masked weapons batteries against each other in order to seize Webway drifts and colony stations for their own ends. Yet the common thread among these scattered and self-directed Eldar communities remains their shared ancestral trauma of the Fall, inherited across countless generations of stateless wandering since the Empire's downfall. To the Corsairs, their outlawed existence carving out hard-scrabble profits across the void is a harsh return to their race's nomadic roots, a fatalistic embrace of their cosmic pariahdom while clinging to the faded technologies and star maps of a civilization that no longer exists. No matter their divergent paths and philosophies in the 41st millennium, all the remaining kindreds of the Eldar still carry the searing, collective racial memory of their civilization's cataclysmic downfall. The ancient Eldar learners once held the keys to mastering the physical universe and warping the very fabric of reality through their advanced psychic and technological disciplines. Yet this cosmic arrogance and descent into decadence catalyzed the apocalyptic birth of the Devourer of Souls, otherwise known as the Chaos God Slaanesh. In the wake of this monumental fall that nearly erased their entire species, the Eldar found themselves scattered, split into the divergent factions of the ascetic Craftworld Mariners, sadistic Commorragh Raiders, and the mysterious Harlequin Mythologists. Though splintered along ideological lines, all continue to be affected by the psychic and mythic reverberations of their ancient ancestors' transgressions. On the great self-contained craftworlds, the Eldar way of life revolves around a series of rigidly controlled paths and disciplines. Walking these paths allows them to channel their potent psychic abilities in service of various roles, while avoiding the vortex of indulgence that spawned the Devourer. Craftworld warriors, aspect shrines, bonesingers, and seers all play a part in this eternal psychic vigil. Diametrically opposed are the corrupt and twisted ways of the Commorragh realm and its splintered, dark Eldar cabals. Rejecting the spiritual paths, they have fully embraced a sadistic culture of piratical raids, flesh-crafting, and torture of lesser species merely to experience the agonizing psychic resonance required to keep their own fragile souls from being devoured. Observing and intervening amidst these divergent poles are the esoteric ranks of the Harlequin Masques, semi-nomadic troops who alone claim full knowledge of the cosmic mythologies surrounding the Devourer's birth. Their colorful ritual dances encode hidden truths about the ancient fall that brought low their empire, designed as eternal reminders to their Eldari brethren of the dangers of arrogance and hubris. At the center of these primal mythologies are beings like the Laughing God, the Whisperers of the Bloody Thorn Garden, and the fallen hero deity Khaine. It is said the climactic battle between the war god and the newly birthed Devourer is what allowed even a sliver of the ancient Eldar Empire to survive as the fractured Eldari race we know today. Whether enduring in the warp bubble sanctuary of the Craftworlds, stalking the secret black underworld of the Webway as corsairs and pirates, or perpetually roaming as mythkeepers amid their kin, the Eldar are a people haunted by their ancestral flaws and the ever-present existential threat of being undone by the karmic mistakes of their forebears. Within the waking dreams of their infinity circuits, upon endless psychic quests into the immaterium, or during battles where mythic avatars of legends take form, the Eldari's complicated racial psyche remains obsessed with both reclaiming some foothold of their vaunted former glories, while also atoning for the utter cosmic arrogance that tore their paradise asunder so violently in ages past. And still the Devourer of souls endures in the night between realms, an eternal hunger for the souls of the Eldar in retribution for giving it form in the first place. Every aspect of the Eldari Diaspora's cyclic struggle represents a fragmented reflection of this primal cosmic mistake, be it the ascetic paths or tormented lusts, the sadistic raiders or incandescent god avatars. So the Eldari press onwards across an indifferent galaxy, scattering like shards from a cultural mirror, yet each bitterly clinging to different faces of the same root identity. But whether they fully reascend as heirs to their ancestral empire's glory, or are inevitably snuffed out by the cosmic karma of their race's fatal flaws, still remains inscrutably trapped within the mythic cycles of their eternal tragedy.